very warm welcome. You're watching the latest edition of the India Today Access My India Political Stock Exchange. In this week's tracker, we'll be diving deep into the two crucial battleground states of Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Alliances being firmed up in both these states, both very important states in the larger national scheme of things. We will see what impact have the Balakot airstrikes had and how things are panning out in these states after the formation of the two alliances. Joining us to discuss the results of the political stock exchange this week, I want to introduce first Nalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP. Squaring off against him tonight will be Sanjay Jha of the Congress. Sharad Pradhan is one of the leading political voices out of Lucknow. TM Veeraraghav has a very close eye on the political developments of Tamil Nadu. We've got Shankar Iyer, author and economist, joining us, is also Dr. Sandeep Shastri, who's part of our political panel. Let's get started. Let's show you first and foremost, straight out of Uttar Pradesh. And remember, this one issue has been discussed over the last 2 weeks, no end. What impact will the Balakot airstrikes have on the political mood in Uttar Pradesh? Also, what is the most important issue for the voters of Uttar Pradesh? Will national security, foreign affairs, or terrorism supplant all other issues? Let's show you now what voters in Uttar Pradesh think is the most important issue that will determine who they go out and cast their vote for. Remember, elections in Uttar Pradesh will be held all across the 7 phases, starting the 11th of April, going right up till the last phase in May. Coming up right on top of the list of issues which are important for voters in Uttar Pradesh is unemployment at 31%. This is the number from March 2019. It was 32% in December 2018, which essentially means that unemployment was, before the airstrikes, the number one issue in Uttar Pradesh. Even now, it continues to remain the number one issue in Uttar Pradesh. And this is in keeping with the larger finding that we had in the All India tracker, which we showed you last week, where unemployment even at that time was the number one issue nationally. It still is the number one issue. Number 2 in Uttar Pradesh is terrorism. Now, terrorism is important because when we last did this poll in December, terrorism wasn't in the fray at all. It wasn't one of the most important issues. 20% now believe that terrorism is the number one issue which will help them determine which way they want to vote. At number 3 is the issue of stray cattle at 16%. Now, stray cattle is important as well because in the last trackers that we've done in October and in December, there was no stray cattle in the mix. Now, this whole problem of people not knowing what to do with their cattle and therefore just leaving them all over the city and the village, that's becoming a big issue in Uttar Pradesh, and that's beginning to hurt the government there. It's now the number 3 issue. So if you can argue that having terrorism so high up helps the BJP, having stray cattle as the number 3 issue goes against the BJP in Uttar Pradesh. Number 4 is inflation. Now, remember, inflation is at 7%. Now, this is important because in December when we did this tracker, inflation was at 21%. So clearly, people aren't feeling the pinch of price rise. The number of people who are complaining about inflation down to just 7% from 21% 3 months ago. Finally, the farm loan waiver at 4%. So these are the lesser numbers, the big numbers there, unemployment and terrorism. Let's get initial comments from our guests on just the first important issue because this has been spoken of a lot. What is the issue that will determine who voters vote for and what will be triggering their impulse? Dr. Sandeep Shastri, to you first. Unemployment in Uttar Pradesh, as was the case nationally, coming out as the number 1 issue, and now terrorism is coming out as number 2. It's not a close number 2, it's a distant number 2, but it's a number 2 nonetheless. What are you making of the first data set we've put out in India Today? Dr. Shastri.
Rahul, this is very similar to the poll that we did last time, where unemployment came on top and terrorism came second. So I think the Uttar Pradesh data clearly also indicates the same trend, that what's critical for nearly 1/3 of the people is unemployment. Next comes the question of terrorism and security, followed by other issues of price rise and the like. I think the question that needs to be raised is, as you move closer to the election, will these percentages remain, or will there be a change? It is noticed that unemployment has not changed for quite some time and has remained the number one issue. Will security, will terrorism, which has now come at number two, will it remain at number two, or is it likely to slide down as you come closer to the election? I think will be the critical issue when you look at Uttar Pradesh.
Okay, Nalin Kohli, now from the BJP's perspective, the fact that terrorism has come in as number two means that people are concerned about it. That plays to BJP's strength. But the fact that stray cattle, which wasn't an issue in December, in the top five, has now become a major issue, coming in at number three, shows that this whole business of trying to come down hard on cattle trading, with people now not knowing what to do with their cattle, the cattle being left all over the place, that could bite the BJP because it's becoming a burning issue in Uttar Pradesh, Nalin Kohli.
No, I think, Rahul, in fairness, what you need to bear in mind is, while this is, you're tracking the mood in terms of what are the dominant issues on a month-by-month or a two-month basis, the electioneering itself finally sets the agenda, and that's been true. Things change very fast because then you go into campaign mode. And I don't think we should ever believe that number one issue would have been Balakot in that sense, because that is not being converted into a political. It's part of the entire gamut of issues that are there, and certainly the response is important. As far as the BJP is concerned, what's our agenda? Our agenda is specifically, so therefore unemployment gets answered in employment. The answer to it is, our agenda is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and taking that what Prime Minister Modi's government has done over 5 years. That's going to be an important part of what we are looking in terms of it. The second message which we are coming is Namumkin Mumkin hai, which means there's been unprecedented, and some of it never seen that kind of pace of incremental change, whether it's 7 crore gas connections, or whether it is 99% of the country being open defecation free, or it is the 50 crore people under health insurance, or it's the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana or national highways. There's a whole lot of issues that we'll be taking out there. And the critical third one, which we should not forget, which is central to this election, is leadership. So in our case, it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who is the incumbent.
So I'm coming to the trackers on leadership in just a moment, and we'll see how Prime Minister Modi is faring in a moment. But I want to go across to Sanjay Jha, because while unemployment remains the number one issue, if it had been stray cattle that had been the number two issue, or sugarcane arrears, or inflation, or farm loan waiver, that would have hit the BJP. Balakot is important because suddenly, even if it's not the number one issue, it's the number two issue, determining how voters go out and cast their vote over these 7 phases. Are you concerned that that could bite the Congress hard? The fact that people are now concerned about national security, worried about terrorism, and believe that the BJP provides a stronger, more muscular response on the issue of terrorism than the Congress? Sanjay Jha.
Rahul, let me tell you, national security is everybody's concern. And our recent cross-border, kind of challenges with Pakistan definitely caught public imagination. But let me tell you the fundamental point. India has, over the last 5 years, experienced what I call a sustained devastation. You know why jobs, price rise and rural distress will continue to dominate the entire political discourse is because people have experienced it over 5 years. And that cannot be suddenly obliterated because, Mr. Modi and the BJP will try and raise the hyper-nationalism pitch. The real point is that the people of India are very discerning. They are actually even beginning to see that national security might actually boomerang on Narendra Modi as people discover that, we have experienced terror attacks, that Kashmir is not in good shape, that, our own soldiers were brutally slaughtered in Pulwama, and the government had an intelligence failure for which it is responsible. So I think the larger political narrative is shifting dramatically. But the real core issues, which is the youth being misled, which is the collapse of governance, look at the CBI, the RBI, the Supreme Court, every institution has been stigmatized to a great extent. The Supreme Court judges said that democracy is in danger. So I think these issues are going to be core. But the larger one that we should not ignore, Rahul, this is also a battle of ideologies. India has seen a lot of fear and hate over the last 5 years. And I think, we are going to tell the people of India what I believe is a fundamental core issue, and the Congress party has been saying it in the public platform. This is going to be a battle of whether India is going to be Mahatma Gandhi's ideology or the ideology of his assassins of his assassin Nathuram Godse. Because ultimately you only get good economic growth if you have social harmony. And I think these are issues on which the people of India, urban or rural, are going to take a very deep look at.
Okay, I want to go across to Shankar Iyer in Mumbai. The fact that 31% of the respondents in our poll believe unemployment is the #1 issue, should that alarm the BJP? Because there is no guarantee that those who think that unemployment is the biggest bugbear for them will vote against the BJP, because they will wonder, on balance, whether it's the BJP or the opposition that has the best answer to the issue of unemployment. So unemployment is pinching them, but they're not necessarily fully convinced that unemployment is because of the BJP, or are they? Shankar Iyer.
Well, Rahul, the voting will finally be the sum of pieces and then who experiences what. It is true that unemployment is a national issue. It is worse in peri-urban and small town areas which are adjunct to agricultural farms, where there has been both the impact of GST and of demonetization. Having said that, when you're facing unemployment, the voter will be discerning enough to judge as to who will solve his problem. The question before the voter is, does the Congress or the SP-BSP alliance or anybody else at the national level have an answer for which the Modi government has struggled? So unemployment is an issue. Well, there will be consolidation at the caste and creed lines. The issue that people will vote for is on life and livelihood. And there I think the BJP is bit on the back foot, because the stray cow issue, for instance, is not just limited to Uttar Pradesh. This issue has resonance in Maharashtra, it has resonance in Rajasthan, and it has resonance in other states. So this is an issue that they could have addressed but failed to address. The sum total of the game will be decided in the electioneering, how much Mr. Modi is able to pull the crowd with him, keep the hope afloat. And as of now, the opposition hasn't produced anything that the voter could make, that could make the voter change his mind.
That's an important point you make, Sharad Pradhan. I think Shankar Iyer makes a very important point, that while some of these issues may be going against the BJP, it's not like the opposition has provided a very clear idea on what they will do. How will they resolve the problem of unemployment? How would they tackle terrorism? So while the voters know exactly what the BJP wants to do, the Congress hasn't adequately communicated, and the SP and the BSP too. They don't like Modi, that we know. But what will they do if they get a chance? Will they be cohesive? How will they govern? That hasn't been fully formed and shaped out.
Very correct. You're absolutely right. But the point is that the way the Prime Minister made mockery of this unemployment in one of his Man Ki Baat was really shocking, and that will definitely have a lot of impact. I'm sure you would have seen that, and how he was busy counting the number of people who had passed out of medical colleges, engineering colleges, chartered accountants, and even he went to the extent of counting the number of trucks that were sold, and he said that every truck has 3 people employed with them. This is how he's counting the employment that has been generated in this country. Isn't it mockery? What else is it? And I think that has been very disillusioning for a lot of the youth here. Because you can't say that I have created employment because so many trucks were sold, so many 3-wheelers were sold, and with every truck there are 3 employed, with every 3-wheeler there is 1 chap employed, with every doctor there are 5 employed. That is how he gave this figure of 2 crores. And coming from the Prime Minister, I can imagine anybody else doing it, but coming from the Prime Minister was not expected.
Okay.
So, that I think, and that is the reason, Rahul, that BJP is consistently and very systematically trying to play up Balakot so that it can override every other promise that they have not been able to fulfill, and particularly with relation to unemployment, because since they are aware that unemployment is going to be a major issue.
Okay, let's now come to some of the other issues that we are tracking. We look at who voters in Uttar Pradesh want as next Prime Minister, and how the graph of Prime Minister Modi is moving over our various tracker polls. Let's start with October 2018, when Narendra Modi was at 48. Then in January 2019, the Prime Minister was at 51. That's the last time we did the poll. Now, if you look at how his graph is moving, the Prime Minister has jumped from 51 to 55. That's a 4% increase in the crucial battleground state of Uttar Pradesh in just the last 3 months. Rahul Gandhi, on the other hand, was at 22. He's jumped up 6 to 28. But the Prime Minister is double where Rahul Gandhi stands. But remember, in Uttar Pradesh, there's also Akhilesh and there's Mayawati. But even all of them taken together don't match up to Narendra Modi, a 4% bump in the last 2 months. How do voters look at the performance of the Modi Sarkar? Are they happy with the central government? We'll show you again the tracker starting from October, when 53% of the respondents said they were satisfied with the Modi government. That number then went up to 54 in January. It now stands at 57. 57% of the respondents like the work that the Modi government has done. 29% think that the performance is unsatisfactory. 29% say they're not satisfied. 10% think the government is average. Now, if you look at it net, Sandeep Shastri, 57% of the respondents in Uttar Pradesh saying they are satisfied, either fully satisfied or partially satisfied, but satisfied with the Modi Sarkar. That should give the BJP some reassurance that they're not doing badly in Uttar Pradesh and that the voters of Uttar Pradesh don't have an unfavorable opinion of what the government's done. In fact, they seem to like what the government's been doing.
Agreed, Rahul. The tracker poll shows that the popularity of the government and satisfaction with it has gone up, as has the satisfaction with the Prime Minister. To then automatically say that it would impact on the vote, I think is a long jump to make. Because when you're talking of the vote in UP, we need to keep in mind the type of electoral arithmetic that is playing out in UP. So yes, it is a fact that post Balakot, recent developments, the popularity of the Prime Minister may have risen. People are becoming more decisive, because you notice both the popularity of the Prime Minister and the popularity of Rahul Gandhi has gone up, which means less people are indecisive on that particular question. Also, the popularity, as you say, of the government has increased. But at the end of the day, when the voter stands before the electronic voting machine to vote, is that the factor which is going to define and decide how he or she is going to vote? Or are there going to be other considerations? Is a question you have to budget into this analysis.
Okay, Nalin Kohli, you'd be delighted with the fact that 57% of the respondents, see, there are two things to look at here. That's the tracking line graph that's on your screen. From 48, that number has jumped up to 57, 55 in March 2019. People wanting Modi as next Prime Minister. The number of people who are satisfied with the government up to 57. So the graph is moving up, and that is important. For example, we saw in the assembly elections for the state governments, the graph was coming down. Now the graph is going up, which means that they're not yet seeing the effects of anti-incumbency yet. People seem to like the government and are reposing more faith as the months go on. Nalin Kohli.
Well, actually, it comes as no surprise to me. I'm also going to counter the points made by Mr. Shastri. So there are two levels at which it's happening. One is, I think that the BJP has always maintained that central to this election and the preceding election is the leadership issue. It was in 14, it's going to be in 19. And Mr. Jaitley, others have also pointed out, the choice is who's on the other side. It's we clearly point out it's a matter of Narendra Modi as clarity, honesty, hardworking, decisive, versus no leadership model on the other side. It's chaos. To take it another side and give it an example, it's like the other side says, let's take a bulldozer and bring down the building. After we bring down the building, we'll decide whether we need to build a new building, how we need to build a building, who will be the architect, who will be the contractor, things like that. So therefore, there is a whole segment of people who will keep on adding the ifs and the buts. But I think the voter of India is very clear. The voter of India is not so nuanced in the manner as Mr. Shastri is trying to make it out. When he stands there, these are obvious. Every voter has something that worries him, or every voter has something that the voter believes in. But fundamentally, it comes down to 3 or 4 things. And let's ask those 3 or 4 things. Is he broadly satisfied with the government? The vast majority in survey across channels, across surveys, over a period, consistently, over 5 years says Modi is the tallest leader of the country and people maximum repose faith in him. Number 2, overall, is there a satisfaction with them or a dissatisfaction Overall, across surveys, across times, across channels, it's that the satisfaction level is high, always over 50%. Then you come to the individual issues. In the individual issues, something matters to someone. So a certain segment says, this is the important issue for you.
Okay.
This is that. But if
So
you look at the
let
overall
me
thing,
then try and
always
break
Modi
the
strikes out
issues
as
down
that.
and
I
look
don't
at the
think it
responses
is
from
as
our
nuanced
voters
as it is
and
being laid out.
our respondents on these specific issues. What's their view on the Pulwama response, the Balakot airstrikes? Are you satisfied, dissatisfied? What do you think of it? Let's show you the responses. 63% of the respondents said they are fully satisfied. 9% said they are somewhat satisfied. That means 72% of the respondents said they were satisfied with what we did at Balakot. As far as dissatisfaction is concerned, 18% said they were dissatisfied. 10% said they didn't know. What do they think about the job situation? Do they think things are getting better? Are things getting worse? 1/3 of the respondents think that the job situation is actually getting better. That's only 34%. 24% believe that the job situation has deteriorated. 32% believe it's remained the same. So 1/3 think it's remained the same. 1/4 think that it's deteriorated, and 1/3 think it's getting better. Now, that's a very mixed picture. Shankaraya, how would you read the numbers? 1/3 think it's improved, 1/3 think it stayed the same, 1/4 think it's got worse.
Well, it's a top of mind recall. Employment, particularly in a young state like Uttar Pradesh, with a large population, where the dependence on government job creation is very high. See, one must remember that while private sector does create jobs, those jobs are not symmetrical. In fact, the job creation across India is asymmetrical. So you have more jobs created in the west and in the south, and much fewer jobs created in the north, and particularly in Uttar Pradesh, which is more of an agriculture state with less than 25% urbanization. Here the issue is more of governance, because the government for over 5 years has been sitting on vacant posts. Rahul, there are roughly 22 lakh government posts across the country which are vacant. A large number of them, including policemen, teachers, health workers, are vacant in Uttar Pradesh. In fact, people had to go to the Supreme Court for Uttar Pradesh to start recruiting police workers. And so this is an issue that will bite them. And the fact that people still in India, even if they have a PhD, queue up for a government job, is going to haunt the electioneering process. And this is where probably the manifestos come into play. Now, the moment you have a player opposite who has some ideas, and if those ideas are attractive, the findings of this tracker will dramatically change, and so will the voting at the booth. So the task.
No, but you make
the
another
BJP
important
is
point.
how to sustain the hope that they have.
The BJP has to sustain the hope, and the opposition has to come up with attractive ideas that people believe in. And Sanjay Jha, that's where the Congress is really, you've been talking so much about the Rafale. People want to know what are your solutions to the issue of unemployment. And the Congress isn't speaking about that at all, which means that while Shankaraya argues that the BJP needs to keep the candle of hope alive, the Congress, if it hopes to win voters away, or the opposition, if it hopes to win voters away, needs to show a very clear alternate path, which so far, with now very little time left, you haven't been able to do.
See, Rahul, one thing is very obvious, that the real hard fundamental challenges that the Indians have gone through, all of us have experienced, are not going away anywhere. So as Shankar rightly mentioned, the job situation has actually got aggravated, rural woes have got further exacerbated, inflation is on the rise, and these are very, very core issues. Now let me answer your question. We are announcing our manifesto very shortly. Now I'm not going to try and obviously make a public disclosure at this point, but on jobs, on rural healthcare, where Mr. Gandhi has actually made a statement today, you are aware that we are also coming up with a minimum income guarantee. Now, these are not going to be like BJP's vacuous manifesto claims, like they said 2 crore jobs and 50% above MST. All the what I call is hyperbole and rhetoric that Narendra Modi indulged in and won the elections. We are going to offer the people of India very tangible, workable propositions which will be manageable within budgetary limits that we have today. And when that happens, which is going to happen, I'm assuming before the 25th of this month, you will see how the narrative really is going to change even further to the issues that matter to the common man of India. I agree with you, national security is important. I agree with you that we all need to, make sure that terrorism doesn't bother us. Of course, these are fundamental. But at the end of the day, the people of India are asking, you betrayed us on promises, you let us down on your performance, you ruined institutions of governance, you split society into, the Hindu-Muslim divide, beating up Dalits, etc. I think people in India that I've talked to are saying, we are scared. We don't know where we are headed. And I think India needs direction. India needs a leadership that is compassionate and caring. And the Congress Party manifesto will put it all on the table.
Okay, I want to deal now with the issue of law and order and whether people think law and order in Uttar Pradesh is getting better. Now, this clearly is one of the big achievements of the Yogi Adityanath government, because 43% of the respondents feel that the law and order situation has actually got better. 22% think the situation has deteriorated, 17% think it stayed the same, but 43% saying that the law and order situation is getting better seems to suggest very clearly that things in UP are on the right track. On the issue of the farm crisis, what do people think about the situation with the farmers? 32% think that the situation is the same, 22% think the situation has deteriorated, 28% think it stayed the same. So 32% think it's improved, 22% saying it's deteriorated, 28% saying the situation has stayed the same. On the issue of stray cattle, how much of a bugbear is that? 29% are saying the situation is getting better, but 34% of the respondents think, which is the highest marker there, that the situation is getting worse. 21% think it's staying the same. This data, Sharad Pradhan, is that the issue of cattle, which wasn't a big issue earlier, is now beginning to bear on people's mind and is becoming a big issue to which the Yogi Adityanath government at some point in time, sooner than later, needs to start finding a concrete solution for.
Well, the undercurrent was always there over the past 10, 11 months. It was there, and it only became visible on the media of late. And because I personally traveled particularly to Gorakhpur about 10 months back, and that's the first time I heard people cribbing about the cow and expressing all kinds. It was a virtual kind of the cow, which is a highly revered among Hindus, and it has become an object of hatred because the way the stray cows are creating a menace particularly for the ordinary farmer who doesn't have resources to put a fencing around his and that is the whole source of livelihood. Now, I heard people saying going to the extent of saying that, look here, we don't care what happens to the cow. When I suggested that, well, you should be happy that Yogi Adityanath is saving your cow from being slaughtered. So the reply was, कि साहब ये कटे मरे कुछ भी हो लेकिन हमारी फसल को ना खाए, ये हमारे पेट पे लात मार रही है. So we can't tolerate it. The men and women have to keep awake the whole night guarding their crop. Because they don't have those kind of resources. The bigger farmers don't have this problem.
Now this is a problem, and the problem is getting bigger because the BJP wants to put cow slaughter to an end, and there isn't enough infrastructure to be able to take care of the cattle, and it's becoming a big issue, and that's beginning to show. Now, I need to take a break, so we will talk about Uttar Pradesh, I'm sure, over the next few days, because Veera Raghav has been waiting and listening very patiently for us to get to Tamil Nadu, and I promised to do that very soon now. So thank you very much, Sharad Pradhan, for joining us. All the other guests will stay with us. Veera Raghav will join us as well as we shift attention from the north to the south. We move from Uttar Pradesh to Tamil Nadu when we come back on the other side of a quick break. You're watching the India Today Political Stock Exchange. Stay with us. You're watching part 2 of the India Today Access My India tracker on Tamil Nadu. Let's now show you what is the most important issue for voters in this crucial southern state. Remember, in Uttar Pradesh, in the first part, the number one issue was unemployment, then there was terrorism. Is Pulwama, Balakot as important for voters in Tamil Nadu? Let's just take you through the data. Coming up on your screen now, the most important issue for voters in Tamil Nadu. It's a big surprise to those who are in the north and think that Balakot, etc. is most important, because this just shows you how every state has its own dynamic and the issues in the south are so different from the issues in the north. It is the resolution of the Kaveri water dispute that is the #1 issue for voters in Tamil Nadu. 24% of the respondents say this one issue will drive their voting impulse. Unemployment comes in at 23% as the #2 issue. Then there is airstrikes at 12. So airstrikes are an important issue, but not quite as important as they were in Uttar Pradesh, where the number was 23% nationally and about 20% in Uttar Pradesh. Corruption at 11%. Corruption, a bigger issue in Tamil Nadu than it is in Uttar Pradesh. Price rise at 9%. Again, a slightly bigger issue in Tamil Nadu than it was in Uttar Pradesh. And terrorism, which was the #2 issue in Uttar Pradesh, is actually at 5%. So much 1/4 the connect that it had in Uttar Pradesh. So that really shows you, very interestingly, Veera Raghav, as you go from Uttar Pradesh all the way down to Tamil Nadu, the issues are different, the dynamics are different, the election is different. It's almost as if, it's a completely different election that's being fought in Tamil Nadu with the election that's being fought in Uttar Pradesh.
Hasn't it always been that way? These are states with strong regional identities, and Tamil Nadu is a state with a very strong regional political identity, and hence extremely insulated from national politics largely. And also the language of Hindu nationalism and the jingoism is lost in translation, fortunately, for that state. So these issues don't impact. But I must point out here that Kaveri as an issue, you see, there are sub-regional divisions within Tamil Nadu as well. Kaveri as an issue may be important because it's a summer election, but it might be restricted to the Kaveri Delta region. It won't be an issue in, let us say, a northern Tamil Nadu or in a deep southern Tamil Nadu. It will not be an emotive issue of that nature yet. I think this will be a state that will vote on the basis of caste arithmetic, a proven track record of electoral arithmetic and alliances, and because of the fact that the AIDMK has been in disarray, I think the DMK Congress combined may have an edge.
We've also seen over the last few days, Veera Raghav, that an alliance has been stitched up between the AIADMK, the DMDK and the BJP. We saw before this in previous PSC trackers of which you've been a part that the AIADMK government is very unpopular. The BJP thinks that some heft added by the presence of Prime Minister Modi could help take away some of the anti-incumbency that the AIADMK government had to deal with. How do you see the alliances shaping up on the ground in Tamil Nadu? Veera Raghav.
To answer the first part of your question first, Rahul, and this is in context of what you guys were discussing on Uttar Pradesh as well. I think anti-incumbency is a certain factor. There is voter anger, whether it is state governments or national governments. I think there is a sense of anger, there is a sense of disappointment. But is the polarization narrative strong enough to carry you, to overpower that voter sentiment? And when you come to, that would be the question in, let us say, a northern state. But when you come to Tamil Nadu, the polarization narrative is very weak. And hence the power. You see, I still believe, and I say it with abundant caution, I still believe that Mr. Modi may have greater credibility in terms of claims at some level in most states. But when it comes to Tamil Nadu, he's not a personality who can reach out or cut across emotionally to the people because of a language divide, A, and B, because of the larger counter narrative that the DMK puts across, saying that, look, Hindutva is an alien ideology and the BJP is a party which is destroying Dravidian ideals. So it sort of becomes a counter narrative to the larger narrative that the BJP has around the country, where you actually portray Dravidian ideologies under threat and a regional identity under threat, and hence create a barrier for the BJP or for Prime Minister Modi's image to enter the state.
The BJP thought that the coming together of the DMDK, the AIADMK and the BJP could pose a tough challenge to the DMK Congress combine in Tamil Nadu. But from Veera Raghav is saying, and from what our poll suggests, that what may be issues in the north are not necessarily issues in the south. Terrorism nationally was at 23% in terms of being an important issue, or the most important issue. In Tamil Nadu, it's only at 5%, and the most important issue is that of the Kaveri water dispute. So there are real gaps and limits, as Veera Raghav said, to the appeal and the push that Prime Minister Modi has in a state like Tamil Nadu?
Well, yes and no, because yes to the first part of your question, which is that after all in Tamil Nadu the issues are different. I think that holds true for many parts of the country. Different parts of the country, different issues resonate, and I said that earlier also in the program. I deal with the Northeast, for example. I can tell you some of the issues in the Northeast would be very different to what we'd be debating in Uttar Pradesh, and for obvious reasons. The second part of this is that the appeal of Prime Minister Modi is limited. I won't agree. First of all, let's wait to see how it plays out, because in Tamil Nadu, in any case, it has always been DMK, AIDMK, and the greater umbrella that they build up in terms of other partners. So those are the two fronts, if I may say so. This is the first election where you will not have Jayalalitha ji or Karunanidhi ji present during the election. So there, that's a very, very different scenario than what we've seen in the Tamil Nadu election. So this is also a new election from that perspective. And the third part is that the Prime Minister nationally, across surveys, has always in state after state been seen as a very tall leader nationally. Whether that is going to resonate with the Kaveri issue at a local level, that's a different thing. That's where I think the interplay of both come in. So according to me, it's too early to judge it. This is going to be an interesting election in Tamil Nadu for the simple reason, or for the reasons that I pointed out earlier.
Sandeep Shastri, if Kaveri is the #1 issue for voters in Tamil Nadu, who do you believe has the answers? If Kaveri is what's topmost on their mind, who do you think benefits from the fact that Kaveri is the one issue that seems to be driving voter impulse?
Rahul, I will agree with what Veera said on the issue. And I think if the Kaveri issue is critical for the voter, I think the DMK Congress has an edge, because it implies in a sense that the voter thinks that the government at the center has not done enough to help Tamil Nadu on the Kaveri issue. Let's remember the Supreme Court judgment and issues that came up after that have not really been seen by people in Tamil Nadu as beneficial to them. So in a sense, if this is to be the main issue, but I would add a caveat to say I would go with Veera in saying it is an issue in certain parts of the state, but I think the benefit of that would definitely go to the DMK-led alliance. One more point, Rahul. I think there is merit in seeing the point that the Anna DMK as a ruling party seems to be going only in one direction, which is downwards. And I'm not too sure whether the BJP can actually help it pull up in any significant way.
Okay, let's now come to who people in Tamil Nadu want as the next Prime Minister. Remember, Rahul Gandhi started out at about 36% of the popular choice in October when we started polling. His graph in Tamil Nadu seems to be going up. Narendra Modi was 29% in October. He came to 28% in January. Rahul Gandhi rose to 39% in January. And then Rahul currently stands at 46%, whereas the Prime Minister stands at 35%. There is a 9% gap, there's an 11% gap between the both of them. Now this is interesting, Shankaraya, that in Tamil Nadu, Rahul Gandhi has an 11% lead over Prime Minister Modi when it comes to the issue of who do you want as your next Prime Minister, suggesting that while his popularity may be in the mid-20s in the north, as you come down to an important state like Tamil Nadu, his popularity is far ahead that of the Prime Minister.
And he doesn't know Tamil either. So the language issue doesn't work here. What works here is that people in Tamil Nadu are not so concerned about the ideology battle that is being fought in the north. Their ideology is Dravidian versus anti-Dravidian. Their identity is rooted in language. Tamil is the oldest classical language, and they see that this regime has not been fair or has tried to impose Hindi on them. And remember, in 1963, the Congress tried to impose Hindi as a national language, and Congress has never been in power in Tamil Nadu since then. So these are lessons. The other point that is mystifying in the alliance that BJP has tied up with AIDMK is that it doesn't somehow fly with the concept of anti-corruption flag that they carry. I mean, this AIDMK regime has been sort of racked by various issues. and its founding leaders have been convicted. And so this is a kind of mystifying alliance to me. I think that even the popularity of the Prime Minister is high, but I don't think, I mean, people may be still long on Narendra Modi in Tamil Nadu. They like a decisive leader, particularly the young people may like it, but the fact that this election on the ground will be fought by the BJP, and the BJP cadre in Tamil Nadu, I wouldn't say, I mean, nobody has accused the BJP of being a friendly party in Tamil Nadu. So there are issues that the BJP will have to overcome. I am not sure whether the caste arithmetic is going to work fully for them.
Now, Sanjay Jha, this doesn't happen in most states of India. Rahul Gandhi enjoying an 11% lead over the Prime Minister, that lead getting bigger as the months go on, suggesting there are places in India where Rahul Gandhi's popularity is not just marginally or somewhat, but fairly substantially more than that of Prime Minister Modi. Sanjay Jha.
You know, Rahul, that is the very, what I call is the pulchritude of Indian democracy. That's the beauty of our, of our society. And as your survey very correctly points out, India, very many people say, is like, 29 countries of Europe in one. And, honestly, even within the north and south, every state has got its own unique challenges, and therefore whatever issues we are talking about some will get diluted, some will get concentrated, and there will be newer issues coming up. I can tell you this with confidence that the DMK Congress alliance in Tamil Nadu is formidable, and our ground reports say that we are going to have a historic sweep out there, but I'm not going to make any further predictions. I do believe that there are going to be a couple of issues that are pan-India. Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister and this government will be remembered for the disastrous demonetization that, frankly speaking, crippled Indian economy and continues to do so as we talk, because the GDP has been the lowest in 5 years as Mr. Modi bids farewell to us. Number two, the lynching and the violence in our country. I think people have actually recognized that we have become a fractured society. This is not something that is localized. This is a pan-India problem. And the third will be Rafale corruption, where I think Mr. Gandhi has repeatedly brought out Rafale is an apotheosis of crony capitalism and corruption and the failure of governance.
While in Tamil Nadu, Rahul Gandhi is clearly ahead of the Prime Minister. Rafale is nowhere in the picture. Yes.
At the end of the day,
Rahul, I need to come in for a minute.
One second, Nalin Kohli. You can't take the data to say what it's not. It's saying that Rahul is in the lead, but that's not because of Rafale. Rafale is nowhere in the top 10 list of issues. Nobody even mentioned Rafale. So don't make up and attribute to a number causes which don't have anything to do with that number. Nalin Kohli wants to counter you. Nalin.
Yeah, I think, for three responses that I've had, I've kept it focused to the state and the responses in all three. My counterpart in the Congress, Sanjay, has made it a national thing. So I must have a national issue. I'll like to come to it too. Let's come to security. We have the person who's very popular in Tamil Nadu, and finally he's popular somewhere in one state out of 29. Good luck and delighted from the Congress perspective. But I think the larger issue on security is that where is the Congress narrative on security? The Congress narrative on security is that Pulwama is a fixed match. That's what B.K. Hariprasad says. Sidhu says the Air Force went out and brought down trees. And Rahul Gandhi ends it by saying Osama goes out to say Masood Azhar ji. Just as somebody else in the party said Osama ji. So I think, the narrative, then they come out and attack on China. And obviously the BJP is quite easily able to show them that the historical blunder goes back to Nehru. So I think the Congress
I don't want to get caught in this Congress BJP tutu. You made that point. I want to stick to the larger issues.
That's why I brought it up, because I was avoiding it.
So I've given you an opportunity. Sure. Let's now focus on the performance of the Modi government and what voters in Tamil Nadu think of the performance of the Modi government. In October 2018, 24% of the respondents said they were satisfied with the Modi government. That number has now gone up to 29%. So the number of people who are satisfied is going up. The number of people who say they're dissatisfied is way more than the number of people who are satisfied. It's at 37%. So it was at 38% in October. It's kind of holding firm at 37%. The number of people who thought the government was average was 21% in October. That's now come down to 15%. 19% say they don't know. So what's clear here is that in Tamil Nadu, and that's the point that Veeraraghav was making, people don't particularly like the way the Modi government has done. So while the Modi government gets high 50s in the north, as you come down, it's down to the upper 20s, and clearly the government in Tamil Nadu is not perceived as favorably as it was in a state like Uttar Pradesh. Veeraraghav.
That's right. And I also just want to add a further point. Look, when you say Rahul Gandhi's popularity is higher than Narendra Modi's popularity in Tamil Nadu, remember this is not just Rahul Gandhi or Narendra Modi. I think the popularity of the DMK is much more than the popularity of the AIDMK. Had it been a situation where Jayalalitha was in power and when she got 37-0, if you look at 2014, and you know, there was a subtle impression that she had supported Narendra Modi. I mean, not that it was open, she had projected herself as a prime ministerial candidate in that election. At that time, you might, if in the event of a credible AIDMK supporting Mr. Modi, I think his popularity would be high. Given that, I think yes, there is a great sense of disenchantment. I think the claims of the government are being seen with a much larger dose of salt in Tamil Nadu than it is in maybe some parts of North India. I don't know if it is being seen that way in some parts of North India as well. The third and most important thing is that I think anti-incumbency both at the state level and at the national level is combining together for the AIDMK in Tamil Nadu, which is already in disarray, and the fact that there seems to be a split in the AIDMK vote openly between two factions, whereas there doesn't seem to be a major split in the DMK vote, means that the arithmetic is firmly in their favor. Yes, they are hoping, as Sanjay Jha pointed out, as a historical result. They are maybe hoping for 2004 kind of result, but I think the word of caution here is that the PMK, AIDMK, BJP alliance may have a pocketed presence in about 4 or 5 seats, and they will throw up a very strong challenge to the DMK in those 4 or 5 seats in the state.
No, but what can emerge from this data is that there is double anti-incumbency at play in Tamil Nadu. You've got the AIDMK government in the state, which is already, according to the PSC, one of the most unpopular governments in the country.
That's right.
And you've got the data for the central government suggesting that nationally, the popularity of the Modi government is way more than its popularity in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has one of the lowest level of favorable rating for the Modi government at the center. So that means that there is double anti-incumbency at play. Last question on the PSC for this program. What do people think of the Pulwama attack and the way the government responded post the airstrike? So how satisfied are they with what the government did? 51% of the respondents told Access My India that they were fully satisfied with the way the Modi government approached Pulwama and Balakot. 22% said they were somewhat satisfied. If I add these two, which means for 73% of the respondents, they were happy with the way Balakot was dealt with. Then the number of people who are dissatisfied is 15%. 12% say they don't know, suggesting that Balakot is not as big an issue as it is in Uttar Pradesh, but to the extent that it is an issue, people think the government did a good job. So that's where we wrap up the political stock exchange for this week. I want to thank all our guests for joining us, and why we're taking these two states in two different regions is it shows you that there is no one election. There are different elections being fought in different states, in different regions, and this political stock exchange tracker captures that very, very starkly. Shankar Iyer, Sharad Pradhan, Sandeep Shastri, Veeraraghav, Nalin Kohli, Sanjay Jha for joining us on the India Today Political Stock Exchange. Thank you very much. Next week, we'll deal with Maharashtra, where the Shiv Sena and the BJP have finally come together. How much of an impact is that making on the ground? And then we'll shift to the east. We'll go to West Bengal and we'll show you how the battle between the Trinamool Congress and the BJP is playing out in the crucial eastern state of West Bengal. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast, because this is where we try and make sense of the numbers that will determine how India will vote. This is not tu-tu meme, it's not a street fight. We're not having guests hurl abuses at each other. We keep it classy, we keep it sensible, and I hope you appreciate that. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you again next week. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.